Citizens of Quincy, welcome to the Hurricane Preparedness Press Conference held by the City of Quincy. I'm Walt McNeil, Police Chief of the City of Quincy. With me today are Acting Fire Chief Scott Hare and Assistant Police Chief Glenn Sapp. Citizens, we are here to talk about the 2013 hurricane season. Hurricane season begins June 1st and extends through November 30th. And it's extremely important that you know the hazards of hurricane season. You should know that the national forecast is for 13 to 20 named storms in the United States this season. It's projected that this will be the worst hurricane season since 1949. So we are kicking off what we're calling here today the Be a Force of Nature Hurricane Preparedness Campaign that's going to run from June through November, where we're trying to make sure that we and you do everything that we possibly can to be prepared for this hurricane season. The word here is to be a force of nature and to be prepared. Hurricane season, as I said, begins June 1st and extends through November 30th. So it's important to know about the risks associated with hurricane season. The actions that you take can save your life and the lives of your loved ones. Whether you're at home, in schools, or in the workplace, we must be prepared. Being aware of our risks and taking the steps to prepare can reduce the impacts of hurricanes on our communities, our families, and our businesses. So what we're asking each citizen of Quincy to do is to join with us, your public safety community, during this season, to make a pledge to be prepared. This season, we ask families, communities, and businesses to be a force of nature by taking this pledge to do everything that you possibly can to be prepared. When you pledge to prepare, you will take the first steps in making sure that you and your families are prepared in the event of a hurricane. These include developing a family emergency plan, putting an emergency kit together, or updating your existing kit, keeping important papers and valuables in a safe place, and getting involved in your community. Hurricanes and hurricane hazards come in many, many forms. Primarily, we understand hurricanes as a wind event and a flooding event, but it's also important to realize that during hurricanes, we also have spin-offs and tornadoes, and we must be prepared for any event during hurricane season. While hurricane force winds often make the news, there's no such thing as just a tropical storm. Hurricane and tropical storm winds can send debris through the air, causing damage to homes and businesses. So citizens of Quincy, it is important to know basic hurricane-related terms, such as a tropical depression. A tropical cyclone is when the maximum winds sustained at the surface, that's at the ground level, of 38 miles per hour or less. That's a tropical depression. A tropical storm is a tropical cyclone in which the maximum sustained surface winds, that's wind at ground level, are from 39 to 73 miles an hour. Folks, a hurricane is a tropical cyclone in which the maximum sustained winds at the surface is 74 miles per hour or higher. We must be prepared, and we will, if you'll join with us this year in our initiative to be a force of nature. And now to give you more details about your preparedness and what we should be doing to prepare for this season, I'd like for Assistant Chief Sapp to come forward and talk to you in more detail. Chief Sapp.
Thank you, Chief McNeil. I'm going to discuss things that you should have in your 72-hour emergency kit. We all remember the scenes from Katrina in New Orleans. We all remember the devastated lives and the homeless and stranded people at the Superdome. It can happen here, but we want to do our very best to be a force of nature so that we're prepared, because we've all been taught that proper preparation prevents poor performance. These are some of the things you should have in your 72-hour emergency kit. And let me remind you, we say 72 hours, which is 3 days, because in the event of a catastrophe, Category 5 hurricane, it could be up to 3 days before the federal FEMA, the National Guard, those type resources could get to us to provide food, water, and ice. So every citizen should do their part by being prepared. Here's a list you may want to write down. First and foremost, you need to have 3 days worth of water and food in your kit for each member of your family. Every person should have 1 gallon of water allocated for them for each day. So if you have 5 people in your family, for 3 days you need 15 gallons of water. Some other food items you might want to put in your kit include things like granola bars, trail mix, dried fruit, crackers and cereal for munching. Canned food items are a great idea. Canned tuna, canned beans, canned meats, things of this sort. Beef jerky also lasts a long time. Canned juice and dried or hard candies and gums. Some bedding and clothing items you would probably want to have in your kit include a change of clothing, to include underwear, socks, a jacket, a raincoat, a poncho, blankets and emergency heat blankets. Some few and light items you may want to have in your kit, because remember, more than likely power will be out. So you will need some way of creating light in your home. Flashlights, batteries, new batteries that are unopened and have not been used. Then extra batteries, waterproof matches. If you own a generator, we want to make sure that your generator has been serviced and it has been checked and you've run it so that you don't get a negative surprise when you try to start it. Make sure that you have the appropriate type fuel for your generator. And most important, only use only use generators outdoors in well-ventilated areas. Never use a generator in an enclosed area. This could cause a fire. Some other equipment that you want to have is a can opener so that you can open those canned goods. You want to have a radio with batteries and extra batteries, pen and paper, a pocket knife, duct tape, and possibly some rope. The best thing to keep these items in is either Ziploc plastic bags or plastic garbage bags, new plastic garbage bags, because they're waterproof. Personal supplies and medications you should keep in mind in advance of a storm are things like your medications prescribed by your doctor. If you have high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, or a chronic illness, you want to make sure you have a minimum of 3 days worth of prescribed medications. You want to have over-the-counter medicines such as aspirin and Tylenol, cleaning supplies, toiletries such as toilet paper, toothpaste, and feminine type items as well. Personal documents. Chief McNeil talked about the importance of ensuring before the storm that your paperwork is in order. You want to make sure that your home hazard insurance policy has been updated and you know where it's at, and you've put a copy in your emergency kit. Also, flood insurance. Remember, your normal hazard insurance policy does not cover flood damage. You have to have a separate flood policy, which is guaranteed by the U.S. federal government. Cash. We recommend that you do have in advance some cash, because if power is out, stores, once they do reopen, they may not be online to accept credit cards. So do have some cash on hand. Do have your credit card or ATM, just in case those services are available. Remember, these items also, if you were not able to write them all down at this moment, they'll be posted on the Quincy Police Department's website. And that web address is www.myqpd.net. We encourage you to go there and please learn and be prepared. And as Chief McNeil has said, this hurricane season 2013, let's be a force of nature. And now we'll have Fire Chief Scott Hare.
I want to talk about several groups of people that may be impacted, especially because of storms. Those living in mobile homes or other structures that are not structurally sound. Pay special attention to storm situations, where shelter locations are. Streets subject to flooding within the city limits. In District 1, we have Virginia Street, Hamilton Street, Flagler Street. In District 3, we have GF&A Drive, Circle Drive, South Street, and East Jefferson at GF&A Drive at times. Shelters within the city limits of Quincy: Arnett Chapel AME, Carter Paramore, George W. Monroe Elementary, Gadsden Technical Institute, Shanks Middle School, Mormon Church on Pat Thomas Parkway, New Bethel AME Church just east of Quincy on Highway 90, Quincy Recreation Center on Grave Street, Stewart Street Elementary School. I want to tell you a little bit about Quincy's instant alert system. Make sure you contact the City of Quincy and get on the Quincy's instant alert notification system. This system is vital to getting information to you. The instant alert notification system will be sending out advisories before, during, and after a storm. So pay special attention to those notifications. Ahead of a storm, you want to prepare to evacuate homes and consider one of these shelters just mentioned. After the storm, you can consider to be a force of nature after the storm by continuing to listen to NOAA weather radio or local news for the latest updates. Stay alert for extended rainfall and subsequent flooding, even after the hurricane or tropical storm has ended. If you evacuated, return home only when officials deem it safe to return. Drive only if necessary and avoid flooded roads and washed out bridges. Keep away from loose or dangling power lines and report them immediately to the power company. Again, I say stay away from dangling or loose power lines. Stay out of any building that has water around it. Inspect your home for damage. Take pictures of damage, both the building and its contents, for insurance purposes. Use flashlights in the dark. Do not use candles. Avoid drinking or preparing food with tap water until you are sure that it is not contaminated. Check refrigerated food for spoilage. If in doubt, throw it out. Wear protective clothing and be cautious when cleaning up to avoid injury. Watch animals closely and keep them under your direct control. Use the telephone only for emergency calls. Special needs citizens need to call 627-7111 and assure that you've been placed on the special needs list. Senior citizen safety checklist. In addition to those things that Assistant Chief Sapp mentioned, for senior citizens, you need to make arrangements prior to an emergency for your support network to immediately check on you after a disaster and, if needed, other assistance. Number 2, exchange an important key so those people can get to you if they need to. Show them where you keep emergency supplies. Share copies of your relevant emergency documents, evacuation plans, and emergency health information cards. Agree on and practice methods for contacting each other in an emergency. Do not count on telephones working. You and your personal support network should always notify each other when you're going out of town and when you will return. Remember that you need to continue to be a force of nature before a storm, during a storm, and after a storm. At this time, I want to turn it back over to Chief McNeil for closing remarks.
Thank you, Chiefs. Citizens of Quincy, what we have tried to share with you in these few minutes has been the kickoff of our efforts to be a force of nature. We're calling our efforts this year in 2013 to prepare for the hurricane season. We're calling this Be a Force of Nature campaign. And in order for this campaign to work, it requires each and every one of us working together, being prepared before, during, and after an event. But more importantly, before the event. There are so many things that we can do as a community to prepare ourselves before the event that are going to result in lives being saved and property being saved from damage and destruction. And so we ask that each and every one of you take action now. You perhaps ask, what kind of actions can we take? Well, if you are a homeowner, we ask that you take inventory of your home and look at the number of trees and shrubbery around your house. And if there are old trees that need to come down, that you take the initiative now